I have to be willing to shed tears which wash away all of my old identity, and to literally stand naked before infinity and to recreate myself from the very beginning. Wow, who am I? Can I let go of the tyranny of all of the yesterdays and actually find my unique voice? Let tears clarify the confusion. Bechi, tears in Hebrew, is from the same root of chaotic confusion, mevucha. Tears clarify the confusion, and all of a sudden I can see clearly now. Welcome everyone. And this week we're here to do something very, very specific. We're going to talk about tears, and we're going to talk about the language of tears. And who remembers last week? Right? Last week we set up a context. And our context last week, friends, was why every great system of gnosis, including every religion, has a unique instrument to play in the unique self symphony, and that we don't want to actually merge religions together. We want each religion to be a unique instrument in the larger symphony of world spirituality, of world religion. And world religion is really just another way of saying a universal grammar of value embedded in a story of value that generates intimacy and generates resonance and generates coordination and generates, goodness, truth, and beauty, and allows us to respond, right, to the invitation of our lives and to the global challenges. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to model, right, using one tradition. We're going to do it later in the year with Islam, and we'll do it with Christianity. But every once in a while, we'll actually model what does it mean to actually receive the esoteric, the deep, not the surface teaching, but the profound inner teaching, right, of a great tradition, and actually listen to its voice and begin to integrate it in our lives. Because we are citizens of this new world religion. We're citizens of this new global spirituality. And yet we're also often unique citizens of a particular dimension, of a particular religion. And we call that dual citizens. We can actually be citizens of both together. I can be a citizen of Christianity, and I can be a citizen of world religion. I can be a citizen of Hebrew wisdom, often called Judaism, and I can be a citizen of world religion and world spirituality. I can be a citizen of Sunni or Shiite, right, or Confucianism, right, or Russian Orthodoxy. And as I can actually, and I've got to evolve those traditions. I can't be in their old exoteric, ethnocentric, pre-modern versions. I've got to evolve those traditions from within and let them speak their unique and gorgeous truths that then come together as part of the great unique self-symphony, where we see both the universal grammar of value that they all share and the unique quality of intimacy, the unique insight, the unique heart, the unique ecstasy, the unique radical aliveness, the unique instrument, the unique music that each plays, writes, the unique melody that forms the score of this world religion, of this universal grammar of value. Okay? So we're going to model that this week, right, with a particular tradition, and particularly the tradition is a tradition that happens just to be up this week, right? Welcome, everyone. Welcome. The tradition that's up this week, and again, we'll be doing Islam, we'll be doing Christianity, we'll be doing all the traditions as we encounter them. But this week, we just finished a holy day called Rosh Hashanah, New Year. Rosh Hashanah literally means the beginning of the year, but it also means Rosh, the beginning of Shana, which also means in the original Hebrew, Shinui. It's the beginning of transformation. Or Rosh means not just the beginning, but the entry point, the portal to transformation. So Rosh Hashanah is better translated as the portal to transformation. And again, in a world religion, this is not for the Jews who are here. This is for everyone, just like the Christmas conversation or the Ramadan conversations for everyone. We're going to weave a fabric in which we all can resonate and participate and be imbued and inspired and transformed, right, by each of the great traditions in their particular language, okay? And we're between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is this coming Tuesday night and Wednesday. And I just want to share something with you, which is actually a little bit shocking. It literally just happened. I'm going to be this coming Wednesday in Austin. And there's actually a critical decision that has to be made about a very, very important piece of work called the phenomenology of Eros, which is one of the key source code changing projects we've been working on for many years. It's 12 volumes in the complete phenomenology and 4 volumes in the abridged phenomenology, and there'll be a 1-volume popular version. It's called the phenomenology of Eros. And I'm going to be meeting with someone in Austin to make a very, very essential decision on Wednesday about the phenomenology. Doesn't matter what the decision is, but it's a critical moment. And the phenomenology opens, I want to just to get a sense of how the intimate universe works. This literally just happened like 11 minutes ago. Maybe more than that, like at 1 minute to 1. So the phenomenology opens with the story of the cherubs above the ark in the temple in Jerusalem. Because that's core to Yom Kippur, this holy day that we're about to enter on Tuesday night, Wednesday, 24-hour fast day, revolves around the high priest in Solomon's wisdom. Solomon, a great king in ancient Jerusalem, builds the temple, and the Masons and the Templars, right, all come from that world, and the Mary Magdalene tradition comes from that world. Right, and all of the great Western mystery traditions and Eastern mystery traditions that are rooted in Solomon's wisdom that have actually formed the Renaissance and formed modern science, right, and shaped the fabric of reality, come in large measure from the wisdom of Solomon. And the wisdom of Solomon is connected with the temple. And at the center of the temple, there's what's called the Kodesh Kodeshim, right, the Holy of Holies. And the Holy of Holies is the place where the Ark of the Covenant rests. Remember Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 25 years ago, made a movie of the Lost Ark. The Ark is the Ark of the Covenant. So the Ark of the Covenant rests in the inner sanctum of Solomon's temple in ancient Jerusalem. And above the Ark of the Covenant are 2 cherubs, Kruvim. And these 2 cherubs are described in the hidden esoteric mystery tradition as being not Hallmark angels with childlike faces, but actually the 2 cherubs are childlike, they're innocent, and they're also locked in erotic embrace. They're sexually entwined, they're sensually embraced. The 2 Kruvim are Me'urim, they're entwined erotically one with the other. And on Yom Kippur, the high priest enters the temple, and the high priest is Me'orer Mayim Nukvin. The high priest arouses the feminine waters of the Shekhinah, of the feminine face of the divine, of the goddess. And when her waters are aroused, then the high priest, that is to say, the perfected human being, that is to say, the awakened human being, the high priest brings the feminine divine into Eros Gamos, into erotic union with the masculine divine. And so there's this quality, and it's not 2 puppets someplace. It's 2 qualities of cosmos. It's attraction and repulsion. It's allurement and autonomy. It's the line dimension of cosmos and the circle dimension of cosmos. It's autonomy and communion. It's the 2 great forces of cosmos, God and Goddess, who inhere in every moment in every person. When they're split from each other within ourselves, psychologically, spiritually, existentially, emotionally, reality collapses and our own personal reality collapses. But when we bring together these 2 qualities, the quality of my own fierce, unique autonomy and power, together with communion, right? My desire to love, to participate with, to be part of, the desire to receive and be penetrated, and the desire to penetrate, tenderness and fierceness. When I bring those qualities together, the God and the Goddess, then blessing flows in the world. That's what the high priest does in the Holy of Holies. Wow. That's what Yom Kippur is. He literally enters the Holy of Holies and becomes a catalyst of divine tumescence. He becomes the high priest and arouser of the divine. And that's what the human being is. That's the essence of the lineage. Human being arouses the divine and brings the world into erotic union, into intimate union. Wow. So at the core of this phenomenology of Eros, right, it opens with this set of texts. And by pure, divine, intimate, we call it coincidence, but it's not coincidence, but by pure divine intimacy in the intimate universe, we've been waiting for about 9 months with lots of conversations about when to have this conversation. And I just got a text like a minute before where my friend said, let's have this conversation on Wednesday, right? Now, my friend, who's a beautiful, beautiful man, right, and his wife actually doesn't know that Wednesday is Yom Kippur. He doesn't know that that's the time, that that's the moment. And that actually he picked the time and the moment in which the priest is actually entering the Holy of Holies to catalyze, to arouse the divine. And that's the time we're going to sit and talk about this phenomenology of Eros, which opens with that text, and which is about bringing that particular teaching of Eros into the world. So what a wondrous, right, gorgeous, right, intimate universe moment, right? Wow. Now stay close, and it's gonna get wild. I'm gonna add one or two more things. Then we're gonna actually go into prayer, and then we're gonna come back. And we don't do evolutionary sermons anymore. We do evolutionary sense makings, right? Sermon kind of locates us a little bit too much in the old church. So we're doing evolutionary sense makings. So I want to add a couple of things just to frame this. I'm going to turn to Tom, right? Ronaine, right? My dear student and friend and partner and beloved. And we've been Tom and I have been doing this since 2009. We've been in deep study, and we're actually putting out a fantastic and exciting book together, and in the unique self process, which I'm crazy excited to put out with him. Tom's gonna, right? Ronaine's gonna resonate the code. David's not with us this week. He's at an offline retreat, and we miss you, David. He's gonna resonate the code. We're gonna go into prayer, and then we're gonna come back and talk about, we're gonna do evolutionary sense making on the code, and we're gonna create a model of how a unique tradition, right, contributes to this world religion in a stunningly, exciting and important way. So let's see if we can get there, okay? I want to just set up a context a little bit. So on Rosh Hashanah, we're engaged in this catalyzing of this divine union, this union that takes place all the way up and all the way down, every place, because this is a divinity that is inherent in cosmos and holds cosmos. So this is the ceaseless creativity, the inherent ceaseless creativity of cosmos that lives in us, that lives in every quark, lepton, and hadron, that lives in every dimension of reality, that suffuses all of reality. When we bring together the two dimensions, when we bring together the masculine and feminine divine into a new intimacy and a new shared identity, then a new whole is created that explodes blessing in the world. And we do that politically, and we do that socially, and we do that in every dimension of reality. We do it economically. There's always, how am I bringing together the masculine and feminine, the line and the circle, and creating a new whole? And that's called, again, in the tradition, arousing the feminine waters. Now, the feminine waters is obviously an illusion, a sexual illusion. But by sexual, we don't mean, in this case, human sexual. Human sexual just approximates. It's an intimation of the Eros of Cosmos, right? The Amorous Cosmos, in which lines and circles are seeking to come together all the time. And in the Amorous Cosmos, now here's the big sentence. In the Amorous Cosmos, there's not only the wetness, the tumescence, right? The feminine waters below, there's also the feminine and masculine waters above. There's what's called in the lineage a lower face and an upper face. The lower face in the feminine expression has lips, right? And cries, becomes aroused, right? With the tears of the lower lips. But the upper face also has lips, right? Also has lips, both in the masculine and the feminine. And tears, crying, are considered the sacred waters of the upper face. So tears are understood in the lineage to be erotic. Tears are an expression of the Eros of Cosmos itself. And the arousal of tears and the engagement with the language of tears and the ability to hear the voice of tears, right? To identify the revelation of tears and to let tears be my teacher, my master. And when I allow tears to be my teacher and master, I actually gradually become in devotion to tears, and ultimately I become a master of tears. And I participate in the process of the evolution of tears. The instrument of tears in the lineage is the instrument that is used on Rosh Hashanah and which ends the practice, the service on Yom Kippur, and it's called shofar. It's called shofar. And you blow a shofar, and that shofar, as we're going to see, is an instrument of tears itself. And that shofar, we're going all the way inside now. That shofar in the lineage tradition both arouses the tumescence of divinity, arouses the feminine waters to bring the masculine and feminine divine together. But the way the feminine waters are aroused is through shofar, and shofar is a crying instrument. Shofar is tears. So it's human tears. We get this now? It's human tears. It's our capacity to cry, to engage in the great crying game of reality, to enter into the veil of tears. And there's tears of ecstasy, and there's tears of union, and there's tears of breakdown, and there's tears of breakthrough, and there's tears of the shattering of the old paradigm, right? And there's tears, right? There's many forms of tears. But our capacity to engage tears and to cry authentically opens all the gates and actually arouses the healing, the tikkun, the fixing, the evolutionary transformation of all waters. And every time I cry, those tears are original. Those tears have voice. Those tears speak. So that's our code for this week. And I'm going to turn to Ronaine with great delight to resonate for us the evolutionary love code of this week, right? On tears. Take us inside.
Thank you, Mark. It's a delight to be with you this week and with all of you this week. This week's love code on tears. Tears have voice. The voice of tears speaks the language of the divine. Tears are not one voice. There are many voices to tears, many dialects in the language of tears. Tears tell a story about the true nature of self or reality. Tears of pain, tears of ecstasy, tears of breakthrough, tears of breakdown, tears of gnosis, tears of revelation, tears of transformation, and more. Tears are the poetry and prayer of Eros desiring ever deeper contact and ever deeper wholeness. The greatest tragedy is to die without having cried the tears that were yours to shed. Every time we cry for all of the times, every time we cry for all the times we never cried before. There is not goodness, truth, or beauty without cultivating the gnosis of tears. And with that, I turn my word back to you, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, Dr. Goddard. Thank you, Tom Ronaine. Thank you so much. Right? Can you feel that code, everyone? So this is the language, this is the instrument of the lineage, speaking the language of tears. And we're gonna enter tears, and I'm gonna reverse the order with permission, everyone, if that's okay, and we'll do our prayer at the end, because shofar, we'll see these tears are actually a form of prayer itself. And so we'll climax, but in this new form of prayer, not fundamentalist prayer, not a cosmic vending machine, but a reclaiming of our capacity to turn to the infinity of intimacy, the infinite intimate. And that's the name that in order for a tradition to become real, to actually articulate in the world, to actually find its way to transform reality, to evolve reality, it needs to articulate its name of a God. So the name of a God in cosmo-erotic humanism, this great new story of value, which we're telling at this moment, in this Renaissance moment, in this time between worlds and time between stories, where we're integrating the insights of reality into a new tapestry of intimacy, into a new story of value. So what's the name of God? The name of God is the infinite intimate. Right? God's not only the infinity of power, God's the infinity of intimacy, which is the quality of personhood that lives in cosmos. Right? Personhood is a quality. Our personhood participates in the quality of personhood in cosmos, which is not a person, it's more than a person, right? It's infinite personhood in which we participate. And that infinite personhood knows our name, just like we know each other's name. Right? The same quality that allows us to know each other's name participates in the field of love intelligence, in the field of personhood, right? And knows our name. And so in prayer, we turn right to that infinite personhood, and we blow the shofar, right? The shofar of the holy and broken hallelujah. That's where we're going to get. That's where we're going to go. But let's take it step by step. So first, we said that the instrument of this lineage moment is a shofar. So let's just take a look, if we can, right? Christina Amlon, take us inside just to see, and maybe stay with me, Christina, on text. So we'll see how long we want to play that for. But let's just take a look at what shofar looks like. What does it sound like? Just so we can feel that instrument in front of us, this lineage instrument, which is 3,000 years old, in an unbroken tradition, which was core to the praxis of Solomon's temple, and is actually core to the practice of this lineage all over the world till today. It's an unbroken lineage chain. So take us inside. Let's just hear it for a second so we can feel it. Here we go. Okay, let's look at one more. Fantastic. Let's look at one more just to feel it, and we're going to talk about it in a second. Let's look at one more just to kind of feel it for a second. Let's look at the second shofar blowing. Wow. So what was that? That's a shofar. Now, the next, I'm going to look at the timer, next 10 minutes, we're going to do hyperspace, hyper slow, gentle, hyper speed. We're going to go one step after the other. Stay with us in the chat box and let's find our way here, okay? Here we go. So This shofar, ready? Everyone ready? We ready? Who's ready? Are we ready to go in? Who's ready here? Are we ready? Ready to go? We're in? We're together? Okay. Okay, here we go. Gentle, gentle, tender, tender, but fierce, fierce. So you have a text in the canon of the lineage which says, Yom Tru'ah Yehei Lechon. Right? This shall be for you a day of blasting, Tru'ah, the blasting of a horn. Step one. Step two, what I'm going to now engage in is kind of the mystical hermeneutics, the weaving, the sharing of the kind of inner interior sciences. It's what you don't hear about in the synagogue, right? This is the inner interior science which actually animates the tradition, is almost completely hidden until you see it. And then it becomes clear. And that's the way secrets are, right? Until your consciousness is there and you can access them, the secret can be spoken right in front of you and you still won't hear it. A secret is a secret because you don't have a consciousness to hold it. And then when the consciousness is there, then all of a sudden you see it's everywhere. Okay? So the text reads, this day, Rosh Hashanah, and the day concludes, it's a two-part, it's called the High Holy Days, concludes with Yom Kippur, right, should be for you Tru'ah, right, a day of shofar blasting. The word Tru'ah, the shofar blast, also means Re'ah. It means intimacy, friendship. So it's a day of deep friendship and intimacy. But in the inner tradition, those who read most carefully, the Aramaic writers, on this text they said, a day of Tru'ah this shall be, T-E-R-U-A-H. That's the word if you want to write it in the chat box. A day of Teruah, T-E-R-U-A-H. A day of Truah, maybe someone can write that in the chat box. A day of Truah, right? Thank you. So that day of Truah, the Aramaic mystics interpret that based on a set of reasons, which I can't go into now, but they're accurate. They say, Yom Yivava, Y-E, Ye-va, V-A, V-A. Ye-va-va. Stay really close, friends. Stay really close. Stay really close. This day is a day of Ye-va-va. And Ye-va-va means crying. It's a day of tears. Then, now I'm going to weave hidden, esoteric, secret texts from different places now. Then in another Aramaic text in the 3rd century that no one notices, right? It's this hidden text, and it's always hidden in the most obvious place. The masters ask a question. They say, what is the reason that we blow shofar the way we do? What do you mean the way we do? So if you just heard the shofar blowing, you heard doo, that's called a tikki'ah, straight blast. Then you heard a shvarim, 3, sometimes 4, kind of wailing sounds. And then you heard, and remember she said it, the woman who blew the shofar was actually overlooking Los Angeles. She said then Truah, and Truah is so the word Truah means generally shofar blasting, but it's also a particular kind. So there's basically a that's the introductory note. But then the essence of shofar is the shvarim and the Truah, which is Now, in the original tradition, there wasn't someone who blew the shofar for the entire community, but actually everyone actually had a shofar, and they would blow it themselves. And shofar is an instrument in this Aramaic hidden tradition of yivava, of tears. It's a crying instrument. Now, I want to look now at just one form of crying. Remember, we need to hear the voice of tears. So what's one note? There's about 20 major movements in this symphony of tears. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are actually in the hidden lineage. You can go to lots of synagogues and never hear a word about it. But in the hidden lineage, this day, these 2 days, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are considered days of judgment, these solemn days of judgment, at their core, these days of accountability are actually days of tears, and the entire drama is a theater of tears, in which different forms of tears, right, expressed through the heart and body and ensoulment and personal myth of different figures, right, in the great drama of the text, the different biblical dramas that are read in the community. The great dramas are actually about people who are crying. It's a symphony, a cacophony of tears, but it's hidden. You can participate in these services your whole life and not think about tears even for a second, which is what most people do, because the lineage always hides its essential teaching until you have the consciousness to hear it. So I want to take you in, with your permission, one door. Okay, you ready? Here we go. So in the 3rd century, an Aramaic text asks, why do we have this particular form of tears? Right? Why do we have right? A shvarim, and a tra. Why do we need both of those? And what are they about? And so the Aramaic text says that Yom Yevava, this is a day of tears, and the word Yevava comes from a particular story in what's called the Book of Judges, where a woman whose name is Sisra, the mother of Sisra, her son Sisra is an evil figure, kind of like a Saddam Hussein figure of the Book of Kings. She's his mother. She's Sisra's mother. He's gone to battle against the Israelites. The Israelites are, in this story, trying to establish peaceful relations. He doesn't want peaceful relations. He attacks them, and he goes and he's gone before to massacre. He's now attacked this Israelite community. And his mother, Sisra's mother, that's her name. Her name in the text is Sisra's mother, waits for him to come home, and he doesn't come home. And so the text reads, Yivava, tears, vatiyabev im Sisra, Sisra's mother cries. Sisra's mother cries. Vanishkefa ba'ad hachalon, she's looking out the window. Bosheshu yichbo lavo, and her son's chariot is not coming. Vatiyabev, and she raises her voice in tears. And if you remember, the Aramaic hidden text said that this day of shofar blowing, of Trua, is a day of Yivava, it's a day of tears. And so the text is saying these tears are based on the tears of Sisra's mother. And we're not sure how Sisra's mother cried. Did she cry shvarim? Or did she cry Trua? And there's these two different qualities of tears. And we're not sure which one she cried, or did she cry both of them together? We're not sure. Did she cry 3 wailing sounds? Did she cry 9 or 10 kind of staccato sounds? Or did she cry them together? And since we're not sure, says the text, which way she cried, we model and pattern our shofar blowing after Sisra's mother. We cry all of them. Now, if you're with me, what you're asking is, what does that possibly mean? So obviously it's a code. And remember the Da Vinci codes? The Da Vinci codes come out of, it's a popularization of the method of this lineage of the Solomon Temple, which is speaks in codes. This is clearly a code. It's trying to say something. It's not just, oh, there was this historical woman named Sisra's mother who cried in a certain way. Let's make sure to pattern our shofar blowing after her. Why? Why would you possibly pattern the blowing of the shofar, which is considered in the tradition and the lineage to be the most sacred ritual act? Actually, the only ritual act in the tradition which is considered as if you're in the Holy of Holies of the temple, standing next to the Ark of the Covenant with the high priest. The only ritual act that gives you that ontological status mystically in the entire lineage is the blowing of shofar. Wow. So the blowing of shofar is the highest of the high. It's umka to umka. It's the deepest of the deep. It's kodesh kodeshim. It's holy of holies. It's lifnai v'lifnim. It's considered on the inside of the inside. So this ultimate interior act of ecstatic expression in which we actually become intimate with divinity is patterned after the crying of Saddam Hussein's mother. Because remember, Sisera is a Saddam Hussein figure. Sisera is a Hitler-esque figure. So we're patterning our crying? Could that be? On Yom Kippur? After the crying of Saddam Hussein's mother? And we're not sure how Saddam Hussein's mother cried. Did she cry, oh, 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 or did she cry, do, 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 do? Or did she put both of them together? So let's make sure that we repeat, right, precisely the way she cried. Does that make any sense to you at all? Or what could that possibly mean? So you understand that there's a mystical, esoteric, profound, powerful source code, right, exploding, right, discernment here. What's the tradition saying? Okay, what does that mean? What could that possibly mean? So on one level, and I'm going to offer a first level, but I'm going to focus on the second level. There's two levels here, but they're both important. But first I want to offer the first. On one level, the language of mothers is the language of the sacred. And when a mother cries for her child, it doesn't matter who she is. And it doesn't matter whether she's the enemy or not the enemy. Right? There's a language of authenticity. Right? There's a language of integrity. There's a language of the sacred, which is the language of the mother crying for her child. You know, one of the ways I knew that B.F. Skinner, right, the great psychologist, right, of the 20th century, who is in many ways one of the most influential theorists in the world still today, and I'm actually completing with my friend Zach Stein a book on how Skinner's thinking has actually formed the thought structures of modern reality that are the source of the breakdown. It's a very, very, important piece of work, and we'll talk about it at a different time. So the way I knew when I was first reading Skinner's novel, he wrote a utopian novel called Walden 2 that was published in 1948, right after George Orwell's 1984. Skinner says in Walden 2, which is about a community that he formed, he says, we know that mother love is not real. We know that mother love is just a social construction of reality, right? We know that it's a social custom, but it's not about anything that's essentially real in cosmos. Right? We have a custom that mothers, they're sad when they lose their kids because that is an evolutionary motivation for the mother to therefore take care of their children, which is of course completely wrong. Skinner completely misunderstood this quality of mother love. And so what the shofar is saying is that the shofar is the language of the mothers. It's the language of the sacred, right? It's that which is the ultimate eros of cosmos, and therefore we model the shofar blowing specifically on the mother of the evil enemy, because she's still a mother and her tears are still holy. And that's beautiful. And there's some deep truth to that. But it goes so much deeper than even that. So are you ready? Are you prepared, friends? Let's go inside all the way. Let's go inside all the way. What is the shofar blowing? The deepest of the deep now. The question of Rosh Hashanah and the question of Yom Kippur is the question of judgment. And judgment means I'm accountable. And what am I accountable for? I'm accountable for myself. But what am I accountable for? I'm not accountable for, did I miss some ritual prayer and I forgot to do it and I did it a minute later or a minute longer, or I'm not accountable for, I got upset one day. As long as I apologize, that's okay, right? I'm not accountable for, what am I really accountable for? Not for a kind of petty list of kind of imposed obligations that I couldn't quite meet perfectly. I'm accountable for one thing. Am I myself? I'm accountable for my I. And I'm accountable for the ultimate question, which is, who am I? Who are you? And I want to read you a text. And it's a text of Abraham Cook, the great evolutionary mystic. And he says, and it's a stunning text. He says, Va'ani betoch hagola. And he's quoting a verse from the book of Isaiah, where Isaiah says, I'm in the exile, because Isaiah was in Babylonia. He was in the exile. He says, I'm in the exile. And Cook rereads the text and he says, my I, not I'm in the exile historically, geographically, I'm in the exile, as Isaiah seemed to say it. Cook says, no, what Isaiah is really saying is, Va'ani, ani, my I, betoch hagola, my I is in exile. I can't find my I. I don't know who I am. So that question of identity, that question of who am I, is the ultimate question. So I want to go for a second to the chat box. I want to ask you a question in the chat box. But don't answer it spiritually. Don't answer it, don't say, I am love, right? Just answer it for real. Who am I? And I say, who am I? So you would say, I'm a lawyer. Right? Let's find each other in the chat box. Let's try and do it. I'm a lawyer. I'm American. I'm a boy, right? I'm a girl. It's just the normal ways that we identify each other. I'm a veterinarian, right? I'm a human being, right? What else, right? I'm a Dutch woman, right? I'm an artist and a musician, right? I'm a mystic, right? Right. But again, just go straight, right? I'm breathing, right? I'm a sister, right? No, right? I'm a guide, right? I'm a lawyer. I'm an engineer, right? I'm a woman. Right, I'm an American citizen, right? I'm a wife, right? I'm an evolutionary, right? Just say it all the way, right? I'm a poodle, right? I'm a cellist, right? And when you keep doing I am, right? I'm a mother, right? I'm right? So let's hold it there, right? Let's hold it there, right? So you get a sense of it, right? In other words, when you actually have to go through, you can't skip. You just have to go just straight. Right? In other words, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a musician, I'm a cellist, right? I'm a plumber, I'm a friend, right? I'm a writer, right? I'm a mystic, right? In other words, I go through all these kind of, who am I? Right? And that's what we do. We identify ourselves based on the group that we work with, and that's legitimate, that's real, that's not wrong. That's real, that's sacred. Right? I'm part of my community, I'm part of my organization, I'm part of my company, right? I'm part of my community. Those are all real. And we identify ourselves by our relationships, right? I'm a brother, right? I'm a sister, right? I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a father, I'm a mother. And these are all important and beautiful and critical ways, right, to identify, right, who am I? And yet, they don't exhaust the question. I'm more than all that. I'm deeper than all that. And am I willing to rip away all of those surface identifications and stand naked before infinity and ask the great question of who am I? Now, what's the name of the actor in our story? She's Sisra's mother. Sisra's mother. But one second. She's Sisra's mother, but what's her real name? Right? What's her real name, everybody? What's her real name? She's Sisra's mother. But what's her real name? I just said she's Aim Sisra. She's Sisra's mother in the book of Judges. But what's her name? So the answer is, my friends, she doesn't have a name. Doesn't have a name. She's called Sisra's mother. Now, if you're Sisra's mother, and Sisra is going out to battle, right? You're Sisra's mother, right? And Sisra's going out to battle, okay? And now Sisra has not come home. So you're sitting at the window. I'm sorry for moving the computer. I'm trying to get it at a good angle. I apologize, right? So you're Sisra's mother. Sisra's gone out to battle. And your identity, your name is, I'm Sisra's mother. And then you're looking out the window, you're waiting for him to come back. The Boshesh Richbo Lavo, and his chariot is late. How many of us have had the experience of someone's late? So when someone's late, first we're mad at them. Or you're late, I'm here, why you're not here? Like, I can't believe you came late, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you get really mad. But by the time you get to like a half hour, you start getting worried. What if they're not here? What if they don't come? What if something happened to them? And if it's someone close to you, somewhere about 45 minutes, you start having feelings, and we all recognize this. Wow, what if something actually happened to them? And who would I be if, like, what if they had a car accident? And what would happen? And let's say it's a wife or a husband, a son or a daughter, right? All sorts of thoughts go through your mind about them, but also about you. And in the period of waiting and the space between, how many people in the chat box, how many people know what I'm talking about? I've had an experience of waiting like that, right? When you're waiting and just everything goes through your mind, right? So that's what this story is about. This is a waiting story. She's waiting. Her name, we don't know. She's identified by, I'm a mother. And I'm a mother is real and it's beautiful. But it doesn't exhaust her identity. And on Rosh Hashanah, she stands, right? I'm a mother, I'm Sisra's mother, and Sisra's not there, and she's waiting. Now, stay close with me, friends. I'm going to tell you something, just a little dark secret about myself, just for a second. We've got to share a dark secret someplace. So one of the ways I got through school, financially, I come from a family without, financial means. One of the ways I got through school was babysitting, right? I'd be a babysitter, and particularly, in high school, sometimes part of college also. I do some babysitting, in the summers, whenever I could. Now, just between us, I'm not sure I would hire me as a babysitter. I mean, I kept everybody safe, and all that, but I was massively committed to reading and to kind of understanding as much as reality as I could through reading. So I'd say hi to the kids and, let them do what they were doing, make sure they were safe, and I'd go to read. Now, sometimes I would babysit a family that had a little baby who was actually still in a crib. And so there you got to take a little more care, and you put the baby down. And I happen to love babies, and so you put the baby down, and I'd go back and read. And then every so often, you would hear the baby crying. Right? Which was this shriek, this wail. And I would drop whatever I was reading. I would leap jolted up, right, cross the house, run upstairs to find the baby. And who knows what I'm talking about? Who's ever had a baby, right, cry like that in the chat box? Who knows what we're talking about here, right? That's an unmistakable wail. And everything stops, right? It stops reality, right? And what would happen almost every time when I got to the crib is that the baby had a security blanket of some form, or a teddy bear, or a doll, right? Or something that for the baby gave them their sense of security, their sense of belonging. Winnicott, the great psychologist of the 20th century, he called those things transitional objects. When the mother leaves, the baby forms their identity through holding what Winnicott called a transitional object, which could be that blanket, or it could be that teddy bear, or it could be a pacifier, right? Or it could be, a little ball. When that would drop from the crib, the baby would scream because the baby couldn't find herself, didn't know for a moment who she was. And then I'd pick up the baby, and we'd be together again. That's Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, we pattern the blowing of shofar in the lineage. And the crying, we pattern the shofar blowing and the crying of Sisra's mother, because Sisra's mother is the mother of Sisra. And then she realizes in this moment in the text, which shofar blowing is patterned on, this lineage moment which captures the inner phenomenology of this moment. In this moment, she realizes all of a sudden, Sisra, her son, is not coming home. And she's the queen mother. And the king is clearly no more. So if the king is no more, if Sisra is no more, in some fundamental way, her position as the queen mother has disappeared. And her identity, her entire life, has been to give birth to Sisra, to protect him, to ascend him to the throne. then to function as Queen Mother, and all of a sudden she's not Queen Mother anymore, and she understands that in the depth of her being, and instead of turning away, she shrieks, she screams, she wails, she cries, and we want to cry exactly like she did. Whether it was, whether it's whether it was two of them together, but we want to cry like she did because we want to capture that capacity, right, to shed those tears that shatter our false identity. These are tears of shattering. These are tears of shvirata kelim, it's called in the lineage, the shattering of the vessels. When I shatter the identity that I'm basing myself on, my identity might be, I'm spiritual, I'm perceptive, I'm writing books, right? I'm kind. Those are all beautiful, right? I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, right? I'm an organization man, right? However I form my identity, right? In this moment, in this new year, in this Rosh Hashanah, we translated at the beginning of our conversation, in this portal to transformation, I have to be willing to shed tears which wash away all of my old identity, and to literally stand naked before infinity and to recreate myself from the very beginning. Wow, who am I? Can I let go of the tyranny of all of the yesterdays and actually find my unique voice? Let tears clarify the confusion. Bechi, tears in Hebrew, is from the same root of chaotic confusion, mevucha. Tears clarify the confusion, and all of a sudden I can see clearly now. Tears bypass all of the rationalizations. Tears bypass all of the stories we tell about what we need and who we are. I remember I was in the Far East with an assistant of mine during 3 years, some 25 years ago, where I had taken off from the world of teaching to really understand what the world felt like from the perspective of business. So I was involved for 3 years in entrepreneurship in a company that was buying, selling, and taking high-tech companies public, right? And we were in the middle of trying to close a particular deal with a particular company in the Far East, and I was there, right, with my assistant, who was essential to the whole story, and her name was Mickey. And Mickey comes to me, and we're there. We're about to close the deal in the next 2-3 days, and we're being wined and dined. And she says, something happened, with my family. It's not, but I feel like I need to go home. She tells me what happened. I said, Mickey, you're awesome, but I think they can handle this. We need you here to close this deal. We need to take this company public, right? We need this deal closed in order to do it. So I apologize. I love you madly, but I can't let you go. And by all rational calculation, I was right. And Mickey looks at me, and these tears start running down her cheeks. She can't even, she's just crying. And I said, whoa, Mickey, you know what? I got this wrong. I think we can manage without you. Get a ticket, fly the next day. It'll be fine. Go home, right? Take care of it. Okay, I got, right? And Mickey goes, so what happened? What changed? What changed was her tears spoke something that entered my heart. Right? And that communicated a truth, communicated a depth, communicated a value, right? That bypassed my words, right? Tears have a bypass mechanism that take us directly into essence. When all the gates are closed, right? The gates of tears are never closed, right? So in Rosh Hashanah, we cry, but these are the tears of transformation. It's the willing to be naked before myself, and to literally recreate myself in the full depth and wonder of the unique expression that is me. Now, who am I? Right? What is that unique expression that's me? That's our topic for next week. But I want to just end with, and I want to go back to the code, and maybe we can put the code in the chat box again. To take that step to know who I am, right? Who am I? I've got to first be able to cry the tears that shatter denial, the tears that upend the old paradigm, the tears that liberate me from the tyranny of yesterday, the tears that free me, right, from my imposter stance. Am I willing to actually be me? And the truth is, It's the only person you can be because everyone else is taken. But to be you is an outrageous act. It's an outrageous commitment. It means to move through the traumas, to move through the contractions, to move through the pettiness, to move through the smallness, and actually feel a unique flame alive in you. And that flame, and we're going to talk about this next week, that flame is a unique constellation, a unique quality of outrageous love. The love that's the heart of existence that moves through you. And that outrageous love which is Eros, flames with desire. Because really the answer to the question of who are you is, I am desire. I am desire. And I am, in my deepest essence, in my clarified essence, in my clarified desire, what we call here my deepest heart's desire, I am the desire of the divine. I'm the desire of the infinite, but I'm a unique desire of the infinite. The infinite desires through me in a way in which she cannot desire through anyone else that ever was, is, or will be other than me. I am a unique configuration of desire, which means I'm a unique configuration of outrageous love, which means that I have outrageous acts of love to commit in this world that are a function of my unique self, and the committing of those outrageous acts of love is my deepest heart's desire, which is the desire of divinity awake and alive in me. But those aren't words. You actually have to feel, I actually have to feel, we actually have to feel to be a participant in unique self-symphony, this quality which we've washed away through the tears. We've screamed. We've screamed because we realize we're not Sisra's mother anymore. We're standing naked. We've dropped the pacifier. And the pacifier takes many forms. The pacifier can be, I'm a mother. The pacifier can be, I'm an entrepreneur. The pacifier can be, I'm a writer. The pacifier can be, but I'm a lawyer. The pacifier can be, I'm a sister. And those are all beautiful. But they can ultimately be a security blanket, a transitional object, right? A form of idolatry, which actually stands between me and my essential self. My essential unique self, my ani ha'atzmi, right? The unique quality of desire that lives in me, as me, and through me. That's tears. So let's just take a second. Let's read the code, right? Right? Evolutionary love code. Tears have voice. So what we've done is we just gave voice, right, to a particular form of tears, right? Tears have voice, right? Tom read. The voice of tears speaks the language of divine. Tears are messengers of God, but tears are not of one voice. There are many voices to tears, many dialects in the language of tears. And we just told one story that's told by tears, one dialect. Tears tell a story around the true nature of self and reality. Tears of pain, tears of ecstasy, tears of breakthrough, tears of breakdown, tears of gnosis, tears of revelation, tears of transformation. That's what we've just been talking about. Tears are the poetry and prayer of Eros desiring, right? Ever deeper contact and ever greater wholeness. The greatest tragedy is to die without having cried the tears that were yours to shed. And every time we cry for all the times we never cried before. There's no goodness, truth, or beauty without cultivating, right, the gnosis of tears. So can we feel that, friends? We didn't talk about all of it. We just began. We began with one movement, one language of tears. And it's those tears that arouse the divine. And those tears are tears that we can only cry in this time of new year when we're willing to shatter our yesterdays. I'm willing to literally be born again. And that notion of being born again that found its way into fundamentalist Christianity is actually rooted in Rosh Hashanah. But to be born again means, right, it's not a fundamentalist movement. It means I can actually reclaim my essential self, which I've forgotten. I've forgotten how to answer the question of who are you? I've given so many idolatrous and false answers. I'm willing to actually rip off that security blanket, to drop that pacifier, to drop all of the distressing disguises that stand between me and my essential identity. I am desire. I am irreducible, unique, divine desire. When I'm willing to shed those tears, when I'm willing to clarify my desire, and you only clarify your desire through the deepest of tears, when I'm willing to listen to the voice of tears, then I can pray. See, tears are the ultimate form of prayer. That's what tears are. And in the deepest teachings of the tradition, they tell, and with this we'll move into prayer, they tell of a boy who comes to the service on the high holy days, and everyone's there with their prayer shawls and they're speaking all of their words, right? And the boy, he doesn't know the words. He doesn't know the prayers. So he takes out a whistle, and in the middle of the prayer service, he blows hard on that whistle. And everyone goes, "Shh, stop, what's the kid doing? He's interrupting the services." And the master, the Baal Shem Tov, the master of the Hasidic movement, turns and he says, "No, only that boy knows how to pray." He says, that's what shofar blowing is. Shofar blowing is the pure tears. When we shatter the yesterdays, we stand naked before ourselves and we say, I am desire. Because that's actually who I am. At my very core, I am desire, and I desire value. I desire goodness, I desire truth, I desire beauty, but I desire it uniquely. I am the unique desire of the divine who discloses value that can be disclosed only through me. That's what it means to be a unique self. And it's those tears that we pour into God when we pray.